I'm Brandon Amoroso, and this is the D2Z podcast, building and growing your business from a Gen Z perspective. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning into D2Z, a podcast about using the Gen Z mindset to grow your business. I'm Gen Z entrepreneur Brandon Amoroso, founder and president of Retention as a Service agency, Electric, as well as the co-founder of Scaleless. And today I am talking with Valerie Khayutin, who's the CEO of North America for Badesofa. Thanks for coming on the show.
Hi, Brandon. Thank you for having me.
So before we jump into things here, can you give everybody just a quick background on yourself?
Sure. So I run a company called Badesofa in North America. The headquarters are based in Germany, and we launched the North America division last year. So it's been about a year in operations and lots of learnings that I'm happy to share with everybody. My background is I have about 15 years of building, operating, researching, funding different businesses, all in consumer space, and majority of them concentrated in health and wellness.
Awesome. And how did you get into this particular product category and this particular product line?
The story is really interesting. So the company, I mentioned that it was founded in Germany about 3 years ago. And the co-founders of the company totally created the product essentially in their kitchen. They sew the pillow themselves because they couldn't find anything on the market that was meeting the requirements for their own consumption. Mm-hmm. If you ever taken a bath, you know how uncomfortable it could be, especially if you have one of those freestanding, really large bathtubs that tend to look really beautiful, but are very uncomfortable for the most part. And if you look at the market before Badesofa entered, it's a bath pillow category. It's a very unsexy market. Anything that you find there is about $30 price point, usually lacking in aesthetics and in hygienic qualities. And that's kind of what arose the need for creation of the product in the first place, for the flagship product of Badesofa. And then in 3 years, they actually were, in 2021, they were on Shark Tank in Germany. So that's kickstarted the business in the EU. And we expanded into the North America just last year.
Got it. So you're really leading the charge into North America.
Yeah, so I run North America. It's US is the biggest market, obviously. We're just starting to dip our toes into Canadian market with an expansion in the future. And I'm very connected to the EU entity, but we run independently in North America.
Got it. And are you all e-com in the US or retail as well?
In the US, it's a predominantly D2C. And a little bit of Amazon. We just launched on Amazon in the summer and still learning our way through it. As you probably know, Amazon could be a really tough game. Yeah. But I think it has a big potential for our product category, especially coming in Q4. And the retail is planned for the future, and I'm starting to explore it slowly, but that's not in a pipeline for this year.
Got it. Are you shipping out of Germany, or are you staged in the US with the warehouse?
Yeah, we have everything in the US. The manufacturing of the product is in North America as well. We have 2 facilities. One is in Poland, and that's supplying the EU market. And then everything for North America is done here. And the fulfillment is actually located here in California, not so far from where I'm based.
And then you stage, in Germany, all the products are over there as well. So you have, warehouses in both countries.
Yeah, we have dual sourcing. Again, we're very connected, and it's in a sense of like buying power for the materials and, gaining economies of scale for both markets. But they have their own manufacturing in the EU. and we have manufacturing in North America. If you think about the nature of our product, it's very voluminous and very heavy. That's differentiation of our bath pillow versus most of what you see on the market, but that also means that logistics becomes a little bit more complicated, and shipping it across the continents is very costly.
Yeah. What are some of the unique challenges that are, in the US market that maybe aren't in the Germany market?
There's many. I would say that the biggest challenge is cost. Our costs in the US are significantly higher than they are in Germany or in the EU, I would say, in general, both in marketing and in terms of fulfillment. It's an interesting math project because at the end of the day, the AUV and the potential of the US market is significantly higher than it is in Germany. So you kind of have to always balance it with cost. And because of that nature, our strategy in the US is very heavily weighted towards bundling and selling sets and incentivizing essential multiple unit purchase to drive that AOV and LTV in general up. Versus in Germany, I think the unit economics can withhold selling one unit at a time a lot easier.
Got it. Okay. No, that makes sense. I think there's a lot of companies and brands in the U.S. that we work with that are hyper focused on increasing that average order value because of the reasons that you mentioned.
Yeah, and I think it's not the right game for everybody. I think you always have to base any decision in your strategy on like what is your consumer behavior, what do they want, what is best for consumer, what will feel they need. Because if you're just selling them a bundle and they have no need for it, that's really not, that's not what we want to do, because we want you to be happy as a consumer. We want you to be satisfied and ecstatic about the product. But ultimately, our product does perform best when it's a combination of pillows versus just one. The idea of Badesofa is literal translation is bath sofa. So you're building a couch inside of your bathtub.
Yeah, that is definitely a unique product. Not one that I've seen before. What are some of the tactics that you use to incentivize multiple units in an order versus just one?
Majority of it is actually coming from the PDP. We're testing a lot of different things on our PDP. The easiest thing that we found that works is providing some form of discount for the multiple unit purchase. We're still experimenting on what the right level and like depth of discount for 2 unit, 3 unit, how to structure it. So we're testing a lot on that front. But it's even interesting just the way you position it on the PDP and how you're showing this multiple unit purchases, like upsell section, whether it's above the cart, below the cart, makes a big difference. Like for us, one thing that we know for sure already, that if you put it above that to cart button, any kind of upsell and bundles is going to convert significantly higher. So that's something that we're going to continue doing on our product pages. And then the question is, what we're still testing is what are different ways of showing those bundles on the PDP. But it's all heavy lifting from the PDP standpoint. From the ads, we focus on the value prop of the product itself and not on the bundling. At least at the moment, that's what we found works. And then once you're on the PDP, then you kind of have to make a decision of what is the right configuration for me.
Got it. How do you go about, the education process, in targeting customers when it is a product that is, rather unique and novel? It's not like you're selling a mattress, for example, where everybody, has one and understands what it is. What are some of the ways that you go about that, initial customer discovery and education?
Yeah, I think what's interesting is that while the product is really unique, and I think we lucky that right now we're the only ones on the market, which is like a good and a bad thing, right? Like as everything in life. But what I find really interesting is that the problem of bathtub being really uncomfortable, or the fact that you really stressed and you're using bathing as a way to relax, that problem is really universal. And I think if you start with the issue that your product is solving, it's going to resonate. So the issue is really what we're trying to highlight in our communication as the number one thing. And then the next thing is a solution. So it's majority of our communication, at least until now, has been very functional. It's product benefit driven. And now we're starting to explore additional media and additional communication focused more on the brand building, because there's a lot of brand order that we need to build up, and everything that we need to say from the value standpoint of the brand, from the quality standpoint of the brand. But what really converts is identifying the issue, connecting on the issue, and then providing them a solution.
You mentioned on the Amazon side of things that it hasn't been without its pains and headaches. What are some of the things that brands should look out for if they are thinking about launching on Amazon beyond just their typical Shopify storefront?
I would say two things. One is probably most people aware who considered Amazon is that it's just extremely expensive. So your unit economics on Amazon are going to be more challenging than they are in Shopify. Amazon takes a significant referral fee. Then if you're using the agency or some external support to run Amazon, which we are, because we don't have capabilities in-house. And right now I'm grateful that I have support, because Amazon, especially in the beginning, it's very complex and there's a lot of things that's come your way and you're like, what is that? So I think that it all comes down to just being profitable. And for us, being profitable means being profitable on order one, on the first order. And that's always the challenge, I think, with Amazon after all of your fees. So like not just fulfillment and the product costs, but the Amazon fees, agency fees, whatever other overhead fees that you have associated with Amazon, that all needs to be really calculated and thought through very, very carefully. Your budget on advertising and so on. So I think that's the biggest really struggle. And I think that's pretty universal for any Amazon businesses, that, some doing it better than others, but it's always a little bit tough. And I think another part is, if you are successfully running Shopify site, which we are, and we have been for a long time until we launched Amazon, you will see your conversion rate tank. Tank maybe is a strong word, but it definitely was affected. If you graph Amazon sales and then my conversion rate on Shopify, you can see the correlation. And the challenge is that you're spending money on Meta ads and then you're spending money on Amazon ads, and both kind of like the sales attribution is really tricky, because you can't quite tell. Like Amazon is saying, well, we got the sale, look how great our performance is, but then like you're kind of subsidizing the sale with the Meta spend that you potentially could have been bringing to your Shopify site. So it's a little bit of art and science, and there's a lot of tools around out there that kind of help you measure. But for us right now, we're not at the point when we're ready to invest heavily in those tools yet.
Okay, so you're not using any of those tools at the moment?
Not yet. I think right now we're still in such a learning phase that I'm not quite ready to pull the trigger on that yet. I also hear that they're not all of them are exact, and there's still room for interpretation.
Yeah, I think we see time and time again that brands will sort of go software overkill to start, and then they don't actually have the volume or the actual team to be able to use and leverage the tools that they've signed up for. And so you end up with a very sort of expensive and heavy tech stack, but not really the firepower to do anything with it. So for us, we're definitely in that same camp of, you grow into the tools and software versus the other way around.
Yeah.
When it comes to the way that you're thinking about just growth overall, going into the holiday period and going into next year, what are you most excited about for the business?
Oh, there are so many things. Well, Q4 is our highest season. This is our Super Bowl. I mean, I think for everybody in e-commerce, well, I would say for majority of the people in e-commerce space, this is the time. I am really excited. We had team meeting a couple of weeks ago. We got together all in New York for the North America business, all my internal team and external partners, and we strategized for when we're going to start our Super Bowl season this year, what the right discount strategy, how we going to execute, what did we learn from last year. And I think even though last Q4 was really our only first performance in the US, that was the only data set that we have for the time period, we actually were able to tease out so many insights. Like the PDP, for example, structure that I mentioned before, on like the upsell and how we're structuring the multi-unit sales. A lot of these learnings came from just looking at the data, trying to form some hypothesis. So a lot of those changes are going to be tested in the next couple of months and hopefully will be very fruitful in November.
Got it. Yeah, I think, the mindset around testing and iteration is super important. And documenting the learnings as well. I've seen a lot of companies that test, but they just sort of test for the sake of testing because they know it's something that's important that they should be doing, but then there's not really the follow through around, how do we take those tests and make them actionable and have, insights that we can, operate off of.
I think it's also creating like a knowledge base for the future because yes, you want to retain your talent for as long as possibly but for as long as you possibly can, but people move on, teams change, you change agency partners, and I think having that captured somewhere so it's not just sitting in me in my head and I'm the only carrier of this knowledge, just having it documented somewhere I think is really important, and it's such an easy practice that I don't think that everybody is doing, and in my opinion everybody should.
What are some other things that you would say are table stakes that brands need to be doing, but that they aren't necessarily doing?
I think that in Q4, what I found really helpful, and that's different from normal season, right? Like I'm talking about specifically high sales season when consumers are ready to buy. I think one thing that I found helpful is looking at your performance from the ad standpoint, from the conversion rate, as often as hourly during the Black Friday, Cyber Monday sale, especially as you get closer to that window of time. So that like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and through Tuesday. My team has been last year, and this year we're going to do the same thing, just looking literally every hour. We would jump on Slack. Okay, this is what we're seeing from the conversion standpoint. This is where we're seeing the meta traffic is coming from. This is what we recommend cutting, increasing, kind of manipulating the budget as you go, which is not a tactic that works or at least for us, during just normal business. Like right now, I wouldn't be doing it because it's a high consideration product and people need time to think and consider it. But in Q4, when it's showtime, people are ready to buy. They're there for the deals. And I think that if you are able to scale your budget up and down based on your performance and your marketing efficiency specifically, then you can maximize your potential.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting sort of a tactic to use during those high volume periods. Do you employ anything like a code freeze, when you're going into those time frames, or not at this stage yet?
Not yet, no.
I've been hearing of some crazy code freezes for some of the larger businesses. I'm like, it's like a 4-month period where they can't do anything because there's such a long time that they put both in front of and during, peak promotional activities. And I think, that might be a little bit overkill. But obviously, the day of Black Friday, you're probably not pushing, new apps live on the site to see if they'll work or not.
Yeah, we're not going to do that. That's a bad idea. But even like few weeks before we could.
Yeah.
I think we're still such a nimble business, and we're still learning and testing just so much that any learning, and sometimes this is a trade-off that you're making very consciously. You know that this is a bet, and it might be a 0 or it might be whatever, 100. And you sometimes have to take that bet and know that when you look at your analytics after, like, okay, well, I took that bet, it didn't quite work out. What would have happened if I didn't take that bet? So sometimes you kind of just need to do those things, and we are at the stage where those bets are valuable.
What's it like working at a company of this size versus, I know some of your previous businesses that you've worked at are giant. How has it been like, with that transition, and what are some of the, the pluses and negatives of being at a company of this size and stage?
Good question. This is an excellent question. Yeah, I went from working for multinational corporations in CPG space to startups that went through the acquisition, and to running venture studio arm in consumer goods. So like very, very small. And now I kind of just build this US business from ground up, and we're fairly sizable for where we are in 1 year, of course, with huge room to grow. And I would say the biggest benefit of working in a company this size and managing the business that's this small comparing to Danone, for example, is speed. Speed and agility, and ability to, like we talked a lot right now about testing and learning, and ability to implement those learnings and check your marketing spend every day or every hour, really, and manipulate those things. And if something is not working, you're scrapping it immediately, or if something is working, you're doubling down on this. So I think that's the biggest advantage. Companies of bigger size don't move as fast because I think the risk of making the wrong turn is significantly higher versus for us. Okay, so maybe it's like a wrong bet and they lose $5,000. Like, it's not, But when you're losing significantly bigger opportunities, I think that becomes tougher pill to swallow.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's been my experience working on the agency side with the various size companies is, the level of sort of flexibility that can, take place versus not. And you do have to be far more calculated when you're making decisions that impact, millions of dollars in revenue versus, like a couple thousand. So definitely a pro and a con on that side. But thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you taking the time and the insights. But before we hop off, can you let everybody know where they could find you and your business online?
Sure. I would love to connect with anybody who found the information relevant. If you have any questions, like, I'm always an open book, please reach out. It's Valerie Khayutin. You can find me on LinkedIn. And check out Badesofa, badesofa.com. Bath pillows are in stock. We just launched an amazing new product, Pool Sofa, which is the first and only in the world floating piece of furniture, floating sofa. You can use it in and out of the pool. It's really, really exciting innovation, and we're getting phenomenal feedback right now. If you're interested, please go to badesofa.com and take a look.
Awesome. Well, again, I appreciate it. For everybody listening, as always, this is Brandon Amoroso, and you can find me at brandonamoroso.com or electricmarketing.com, and we will see you next time.